fuck your mother if you want that.
All right, guys, welcome to this episode of Vertcoin Talk. This is episode I'm calling 23 and a half because we kind of did a little update last week. And I got a special guest with me. I got Yurtjap, who's one of our developers. So he decided to jump on and join me real quick for this dev update. It is past midnight over there in the Netherlands. But just wanted to bring him on so he can give us an update on some of the things that he's been working on over the last week or so, and he's been pumping out code and software like a madman. So wanted to have him on for that. But we're going to go over the developer update that we pushed out, I think at the end of last week, or was it the beginning of this week? Days with COVID and stuff just keep running together for me. I will go ahead and pass it on over to our lovely developer who decided to join us today and let him talk about kind of where we are with Verthash, how it is on the testnet.
I realize it's late here, but when we're talking about updates that we did to Vertcoin, there's a couple of things that I worked on that I think is interesting to talk about. So primarily, the work up until now was focused around our core wallet. So we finished that, I think about a month ago, or maybe even longer. So we basically finished the implementation of Verthash, and I think we covered what Verthash is and what it does in some of the previous live streams already. So I don't think it's necessary to reiterate what we did. But once the implementation was done in the core wallet, it was important for us to have a working miner, because the idea behind Vertcoin has always been to allow everyone to mine Vertcoin on their consumer-grade hardware. And in order for that to be efficient, we need to have an implementation of the algorithm on a GPU platform. And so we found someone who's capable of doing that a while ago, but he's been working on it for a while, and also we have made adjustments to the algorithm while he was working, so we're very happy with the fact that he was able to incorporate those changes in his miner, and eventually that led to the release of the Verthash GPU miner.
And it's the same developer who did the last iteration for the Layer 2 Rev 3 miner for GPUs, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he's also the one who made the Layer 2 Rev 3 open source miner, which then either inspired or was the source to some closed source miners that were a little bit more efficient, which is something that we expect might happen with this as well. But it's sensible for a cryptocurrency to release a working GPU miner if that's the prime target of your miner audience.
Yeah.
So you can't just say, okay, here's a CPU implementation of our algorithm, and good luck, everybody, because then there's a risk that someone is able to implement this on a GPU and has an unfair advantage over everyone else who's incapable of writing GPU miners if they just keep it to themselves or slap a ridiculous dev fee on the miner. So we at least had to release a open source version of that.
I think which is something, I wouldn't say it's unique with our project, but there's no dev miner fee or anything of that nature on anything that we release as an open source. There's no fee or anything that goes back to us or for anything of that nature, and you don't really see that a lot in this space anymore.
No, that also has a downside, obviously, not having that, is that we struggle with funding every now and then. Where if you have a continuous stream of income, then you can sort of build a team of developers around that, where Vertcoin has a different model where we say, at least the model that we follow right now is that if somebody has the desire to work on Vertcoin related stuff, then they can fundraise within the community, and the community is generally willing to donate money to good initiatives, which one of them we're going to cover later in this talk, around the Box wallet, which is something that I think got funded in like an hour or so, which is crazy, but it's really fun to see that things can work that way. Mm-hmm. But to come back to the Verthash miner, so the miner was released, I think a couple of weeks ago. We released the first open source version. We had some private testing versions available, made available to the development team to verify that it was actually working correctly with the latest core wallet implementation. Did some tweaks, and then I think the 0.6 version got released publicly. So the source code is on GitHub. The miner was paid for his work, and that was sort of the starting point for finishing some of the other stuff. So when the miner's out in public, people can mine the testnet, and with a actual running testnet with enough miners, we can start preparing for the actual hard fork. And in order to do the hard fork, there's a couple of things that we need to do. So we have a suite of supporting software around Vertcoin. One is the block explorer inside, which needs to be fitted with the Verthash algorithm, which is currently done. At least I have a working version running on my server, and everybody who wants to test it can run it themselves as well. We had the OneClick Miner that obviously needs an update so that people can mine Verthash easily, at least as easy as it was to mine Lyra 2 Rev 3 on their GPU, which is simply a actual one-click interface. But the problem was that the one-click miner wasn't capable of doing testnet as well. So there was multiple dependencies missing for allowing the one-click miner to mine Verthash. And so we released Insight. That was the first thing that we supported, which is also where the one-click miner gets its data in terms of how many coins are in your miner wallet. That's read from Insight because the one-click miner doesn't have its own full node, so it relies on the block explorer to provide balance data. And the next thing that the one-click miner relies on is P2 proxy. So P2 proxy is a piece of software that allows you to mine on P2 pool, which is the decentralized mining pool, but without the necessity to run P2 pool yourself, because P2 pool in itself relies on a full node. So then, which is still a possible path for the one-click miner at some point, but it's a lot of work, and it adds a lot of complexity to the one-click miner if it has to facilitate a full node and a P2 pool node. That's a lot of software that you have to run. Mm-hmm. Where the P2 proxy is just, it acts like a regular mining pool that you can connect to without any dependencies. And it just redistributes the rewards that a P2 pool miner would get over its miners. So it becomes like a big miner on P2 pool. Mm-hmm. So that's much easier for the one-click miner in that sense. And so fitting P2 proxy with Verthash was also a requirement, but while working on that, P2 proxy is written in Haskell, and none of us know any Haskell. Yeah. It was sort of magical that P2 proxy works as well as it does, but that's basically because nobody touches it. So it works, and if we don't touch it, it'll continue to work. But it was fairly difficult to do any maintenance on it because, well, nobody is really proficient in Haskell, and also P2 proxy is written in a very ancient version of Haskell. So with a recent compiler, it didn't even compile anymore. And so we said maybe it's better to rewrite the whole thing. which I worked on last week, and that's currently deployed on testnet. So we're testing it. I'm not sure if it's fully functional, but at least the people that are mining on it now, it seems to be working fairly well. And with the release of the P2 proxy, we had all the ingredients needed to do the OneClick Miner update. So that's also something that was done last week, where we have a OneClick Miner that now allows you to, so once you open it, you're mining on mainnet, obviously. But then in the settings, you can switch it to testnet mode. And if you use testnet mode, then it'll start up the Verthash miner. And you can even run that on a integrated graphics, which I personally wouldn't recommend. I mean, the hash rates are pretty horrible, and I think it's not very power efficient, but
we're trying to include everybody. We're trying to, even if you have a toaster for a computer, you can still contribute, with the integrated graphics. I mean, it's amazing how many applications out there, or not applications, projects, they'll be, dedicated to ASICs, dedicated to CPU. I don't know anybody who has said, yeah, you can bring your integrated graphics card and come and mine. It might not be efficient, but, at least we're trying to get everybody who wants to, who wants to participate, to get them onto the project. In fact, one of the things I was going to do while you're talking about it here is so I downloaded the OneClick Miner. I downloaded the Alpha 6. So I just downloaded the EXE right before we went on here. And I was going to show everybody it's as easy to install and run as clicking the EXE. So you have to create a password. So I'm going to create this one. Let's see. So you're not able to see what my password is, and let's make sure. So it's installing the mining software. So it's able to do all of this. So check fail, mining software reported, no compatible GPUs, which is a lie because my 1080, that's why, because my antivirus started to kick on. So I didn't whitelist the miner. So let me go to the details on that. So this is what happens when you first install it, if you have any sort of antivirus software on your machine. So let me whitelist this. Give me 1 second here. So let's restore, and then we're going to add that to the ignore list. So bear with me 1 second here. All right. File is being restored. Now let's retry. Remove, failed check, remove access denied. So it's probably, well, this is very anticlimactic. I was trying to do this real time, and my antivirus is kicking me.
Show everyone how easy it is.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
It would be much easier if I just didn't run antivirus software and it give me a whole bunch of problems. But while I get this,
I wouldn't recommend regular people to disable all their antivirus.
Yeah, yeah. Don't do that.
That's a good no.
So let's. I'm gonna restart. Let me try this one more time here. I just turned off the. Yeah, no, it's still giving me some problems. I'll take a look at it later. So that was very anticlimactic. I apologize for stealing the thunder there. Go ahead and continue going on. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no worries. That's what we call the demo effect in general.
Yeah, when it
build software that works great on your machine, and then once you show it to someone else, it breaks down.
Yeah,
that's story of my life. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, there were a couple of issues in the earlier alpha version of the OneClick Miner related to not working on Windows. There were some crashes, which is all expected because I have a limited set of platforms to test it on, and then obviously the bugs are always in the platforms that I don't have.
Of course, yeah.
Which is fine. So luckily we have a community of people who are very interested in helping test this stuff and are willing to report what's going wrong and keep supplying information until I'm able to understand what the problem is and fix it. So that's cool. I think most of the weird things are resolved. This antivirus is a continuous
that's a common
struggle.
thing. That's every mining software that you get. So that's that's completely on me.
Yeah.
That has nothing to
Yeah.
do with OneClick Miner.
No, I think if you have antivirus software and you would download the Verthash miner from GitHub, it would get deleted as well. Like that's something mining software is generally unliked by antivirus because there's a lot of malware that covertly tries to install mining software and mine on your PC while you don't necessarily want it to. So it's understandable, but it takes some tweaking of your antivirus, and that's not something that we can automate because then the whole point of antivirus would be gone.
Yeah.
But generally, if you run into anything, if you join the Vertcoin Discord, there's a channel for mining and the OneClick Miner where people are always helpful and trying to support folks that run into any issues. So that's certainly something to be aware of. So once the OneClick Miner was done, there's one big thing remaining, but we're sort of thinking whether it makes sense to invest time, and that's Electrum. So the problem with Electrum is we have an Electrum wallet that's super outdated. So like the Electrum version we have is based on an Electrum release from 2018, which was updated by PK Knight at the time. And it hasn't been updated since, while upstream Electrum, like the Bitcoin version of Electrum, has received a bunch of updates. And also, it seems to be the case that the Electrum Server component also had some updates, but it's not backward compatible with the version of Electrum that we have. So it's not just adding Verthash to the existing Electrum wallet. It's basically rebasing the whole thing to a newer version of Electrum and using updated servers. One of the big issues with Electrum is that it seems that nobody's running Electrum servers except for James.
Yeah.
And as soon as his server doesn't work, everybody complains that Electrum doesn't work. So that's not, doesn't seem like a very sustainable way of working with wallets. Plus, Electrum wallets, while they're fast, they're also very centralized and trusted setup. Like you're basically trusting James not to mess with his server.
I mean, we all trust James, but I mean,
we all trust James. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and so I think in general, when people had trouble with Electrum, we've been pointing them to the core wallet, which always works.
Yep.
And so the question is it worth it to update Electrum? How much time does it take? We'll probably need to do some fundraising in order to, get someone to work on it. It's written in Python, which is not my favorite language. I've never made a secret of that. Mm-hmm. So, we'll have to find someone who's willing to do the update and fund it.
Maybe that's where we can take this bounty model that we're kind of that we were moving towards, where we come up with an idea, we come up with what it would cost in order to be able to develop that, and then we put that out to the community. If one of our developers, so in the case of the OneClick Miner or P2 proxy and things of that nature that you were able to take on, that's one thing. But if it's something like, for example, the GPU miner, that particular skill set is just not inside of the development team, so we were able to bounty it out to a GPU developer. But it allows the community to make decisions on what is important, instead of the development team basically having a war chest, be it was never a war chest. I mean, it was like a war penny sack that we could use in order to fund the development and to keep servers going and things of that nature. This allows the community to directly fund a particular project if you think it is worth the funds that you're donating. I think that would be a good use of Electrum. And I don't know, does James, I haven't seen him comment on basically the number of people that are using his server. I I don't know if something like the Edge wallet or Konami or Core, obviously Core is going to be our primary, and that's where I would recommend everybody keep your Vertcoin, whether it's Bitcoin, if you're using the Bitcoin Core wallet, that's where I would recommend you keep your store of assets. But when it comes to mobile, I use the Edge wallet on my mobile device, but I didn't know if Electrum is just something that it's a small edge case of users that are using that, or if it is really that many people. I do know that when the server does go down, people are very vocal.
Yeah, well, yeah. I have no insight,
Okay.
no pun intended, into like how many people use Electrum. It's just one thing that you have to account for is that it's not just about bountying out the development once. It's something that needs maintenance. Like if there's issues in Electrum, like there can be security vulnerabilities in the old version that we have, and we just don't have the capability to keep it up to date. Then I think you would be better off saying, no, we have a core wallet. You can use the core wallet, and there is no Electrum.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to make an Electrum fork, by all means. But if the development team is unable to keep things up to date and secure, then it's a safer choice to say we're focusing on the core wallet and not on the Electrum wallet, because we can do both.
Yeah.
Better to do one than try to do it all and then fail.
And that's something that we as a team have done in the past, is that we put security and reliability and stability above quantity and being able to do any and everything. We'd rather be able to, the old, or the saying, you'd rather whole ass one thing than half ass, two things, because you're actually going to be able to get a product that can be used, and there's no worry about it just, dying when the server goes off simply because James needed to restart the server or something of that nature. So, yeah.
Plus, I think it makes sense for some of the mobile wallets and like hardware wallets to upgrade. They'll rely on a new version of our full node. So there are still wallets that you can use that have a centralized component, like Koinomi or Trezor or Ledger or whatever is your preferred way of working with a wallet. But yeah, I would prefer not having to maintain Electrum as well. If somebody wants to do it, fine, great. But it's not just the update, the one-time update, something you have to maintain. You have to commit to continuing to maintain it. And also, there needs to be more people that run a server. It cannot just be on the developers to run these servers.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider. Like if after this Vertcoin talk, the whole community is like on fire and say you guys are stupid for wanting to discontinue Electrum and we need to, then we'll have to figure out how to do it. We have to fundraise. We have to find someone who's capable and willing to work on it and continue to work on it. And we need to find more people that want to run a server, and then we can make it work.
Yeah.
But as it stands now, one server and a poorly maintained old version of Electrum, that's not working.
Yeah, it's not ideal. And Jonathan said in the chat that he said nobody is running Electrum wallets because the server is difficult to set up. I've never set the server up, but I would imagine that if you don't have a lot of people running it, it's relatively...
I tried to set up a server, and it was very easy to do. Like if you look at Electrum X, which is sort of an improved version of Electrum Server, it's basically a Docker container that you point to the RPC of a full node. That's it. Then it starts indexing, but then I tried to connect it to our Electrum version, and then it says protocol outdated, or I don't understand this server because it's too new. So I tried older versions of Electrum X, also not working. So I don't know. Like there might be an ancient version that does work. But I think if we as a community want to continue using Electrum, we need to make sure that we upgrade to the latest, like 4 point something version. Make that Vertcoin ready.
Okay.
And then newer servers are like the software is available. It's just for Bitcoin, not for Vertcoin. So we need someone to take care of that.
Okay. If anybody in the community has this as your heart's desire to be able to help contribute towards the Vertcoin Electrum server and just being able to commit to maintaining that, please swing into our Discord, check out the development channel or even the general channel, just post in there. And if you are hell-bent that Electrum wallet cannot go, it must stay, we have to do everything in our power in order to make sure it stays there, please sign, just shout out of that, in our Discord, on social medias and stuff of that nature. And we'll try and figure out, the path forward with that. Obviously, you can see that it is a bit of a hassle to be able to run the server, make sure it's updated. And the security vulnerabilities is something else that we have to take into consideration as well. We don't want to ever put something out there where there is a security vulnerability. We always want to make sure that we have the latest and the greatest and the most secure when it comes to assets that we're putting out there, and that's one of the reasons why our main push for wallets is our core wallet. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on the Electrum wallet. Wanted to jump over real quick. I have up on the screen right now the rough estimate of the hash rates for Verthash. So if you've gotten a chance to play with the Verthash miner, you'll know that the hashes are drastically less than they were, or they currently are, on Layer 2 Rev 3. And they're pretty close to the ETH hash style hashes, but I guess if you can just do a quick, dirty, reason why the hash rate is drastically different. I know we've covered that in the other previous talks, but just in case if anybody is wondering.
Yeah. So what differs between Verthash and Layer 2 Rev 3 is that Layer 2 Rev 3 was compute intensive. And so a lot of its hashes rely on just the compute power of your GPU, whereas Verthash spends 90 plus or even 95% of its time in IO lookups. So it's computing random addresses where to look in the Verthash data file, and then it's looking up data from the Verthash data file at random locations generated by hashing. And so it can do less of that in a second. That's just basically the core of what's going on here, is that we exhaust the I/O bandwidth of the memory of the graphics card, where graphics cards are great at doing parallel computation. So a compute intensive hash algorithm, you can do like 4,000 threads and just do it at the same time. Mm-hmm. Where I/O is it's all these threads are going to the same memory. So the problem is that the memory is bottlenecking. So you cannot just say, okay, I'm running twice the threads, because it's still relying on the bandwidth towards the memory. And so, if there's faster memory than what's currently the fastest, like HBM2, if there's faster memory, these hash rates will increase, or, this is what you can do. And I think you cannot compare the security of the network based on the hash rate of the algorithm. It's not like Bitcoin with SHA-256 and having multiple exahashes of network hash rate is more secure than Vertcoin with a couple terahashes of Layer 2 Rev 3, just because of the fact that these numbers bigger means more secure. It's a little more, there's a little more to it than that. Mm-hmm. It's just how much can a device calculate on within a particular time frame. So if you have the same hash algorithm then a higher number is obviously more secure than a lower one. So if you look at Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, then Bitcoin is more secure because there's more hash. But if you compare it with a different algorithm, it's not an apples to apples comparison. So in this case, that's the same. So, doing 1 mega hash of Verthash on a Radeon 7 versus, I don't know, 100 and something mega hash Lyra 2, Rev 3, it doesn't mean that it's, 1% as secure. That's just not how it works.
Yep.
It's just the same device. You have to put, like, the amount of energy you have to put in to reach this number of hashes what's interesting. Because, like, energy is a finite resource, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have to put in X amount of energy to produce Y amounts of hashes, then I think the energy you have to put in is more interesting than the sheer number of hashes you can calculate with that.
Yeah, and as you can see by this graph here, anybody with a Radeon 7, you're going to be extremely happy with Verthash. My 2080 Ti in my computer here gets a measly 780 or so kilohashes, whereas the Radeon 7 is 1200 kilohashes, so 1.2 mega hash. I think I'm doing math right. It's late here, but it's even more late over there. Yeah. So the faster memory, that's definitely more beneficial for you whenever you're doing this.
The bandwidth that your memory has is the limiting factor. So how fast bytes can travel from the memory of the GPU to its compute, that's what's bottlenecking Verthash. And so if you can find faster memory on a GPU or some other device, we don't think necessarily it exists, not in the quantities of the Verthash data file. Then you are obviously more efficient. The faster the memory, but the assumption under Verthash is, or one of the assumptions under it is that the GPUs need as fast as possible memory, and so the fact that most GPUs have fast memory will make sure that GPUs can do well on this algorithm.
Yep, and that was our goal from the get-go.
Yeah, time will tell if somebody's able to come up with an even more efficient device. History has taught us that people will try, and if they try long enough, they might succeed. We'll see.
Yep. And I just linked over in the chat a Discord or a Reddit post that BDF, one of our mods, who's really big into the mining channel, he wrote an entire how-to on Verthash Miner and Verthash Testnet. So if you have any questions whatsoever on how to download the Testnet wallet and then the Verthash Miner so that you can test it on your system, please use that Reddit. That is the place to go as far as information. And if you're still stuck, swing over to our Discord and you'll be able to find your answer there. I mean, there's tons of people that are willing to help. Obviously, have your antivirus. You have those miners whitelisted on your antivirus, so what happened to me doesn't happen to you, but check that out there. Anything else on the development front? I think we've pretty much covered almost everything that we've done over the last 2 months, although it seems like the majority of that's been done in the last month, and not 2 months, 2 quarters. So it's we definitely have had we've all been very busy not doing Vertcoin stuff, but other things, and we've been able to pump out a lot of stuff over the last 2 weeks. But anything else that you want to touch on?
No, I think we covered most of it, and I mean, most of the time was spent waiting for the miner to be complete. Yeah. And after that, we got into a different mode of updating all the supporting software.
Yeah, and just so people know, we had been in development with Cryptographics, who did the miner. This is a year plus worth of going back and forth, just basically because I know we did some tweaks to Verthash after the first iteration on kind of how the miner functioned with the algorithm. And then we had the miner for a little while, but we wouldn't release it until Cryptographics came back to us and accepted payment. So we waited to hear back from him on that. Once we got that all squared away, then we released it out on the testnet. So we've been able to work on everything else since then. One of the other items I wanted to talk about real quick is that Box Wallet. He actually reached out to us in the Discord, see if that was something that the community would want Vertcoin added onto that wallet. We took this crowdfunding method that we're implementing, and within, I think it was a day or two, that entire bounty was raised, and we were able to get Vertcoin, or he started working on getting Vertcoin over into Box Wallet. So the GitHub, you can follow it right here. I'll put it into the chat so you can check that out. But that's kind of how we're going to move forward. Instead of just putting donation addresses out on the website and you donating whenever you would like, we're really just going to gear these donations directly towards particular projects that are approved and supported by the community. The other item I wanted to talk about real quick, I don't know if you guys got to see my little, not quite a Vertcoin talk, but it was just an update real quick. So if nobody noticed, Upbit, which is a Korean exchange, is delisting Vertcoin. We got word from some users over of that exchange that they were delisting us and that they had reached out to us, and their email went into the spam for all of the @vertcoin.org email addresses. So we had no idea that this was happening, and then once we started looking in our spam folder, we saw that. At that point, we had already emailed them about 3 times. They never responded, so they're moving forward. I think they've already done the delist, and you have to get your coins off of there, I think, by the end of the month it is. But you can check out that information on upbit.com. They were doing that to a bunch of coins on that exchange. Digital Note was another one, but it's one of those things that at the end of the day, we as developers, we don't have control over what exchanges list us and don't list us. If an exchange wants to delist us, it's their prerogative. Ideally, we would not want them to delist us, and we always try to work with exchanges if they're having any issues from a technical perspective and things like that. The one thing that we don't do is we definitely do not pay ransom. So like if an exchange says we're going to delist you unless you send us this much in Vertcoin or this much in Bitcoin, we don't do that whatsoever. I mean, our little penny wallet is already small enough as it is. It's not like we can go and do a 4 or 5 Bitcoin buy in order to get on Binance, which unfortunately, see, you didn't wear your Binance shirt this evening, but that's okay. That's something that it's. If any of you guys have watched us over the years, we've talked about this multiple times about the atmosphere inside of the cryptocurrency community where if somebody wants to get on an exchange or if somebody wants to add you to their wallet or their system, normally it's a lot of niceties up front, but then it comes down to how much money are you going to give us to do that? And then they really don't know what to say when we tell them, well, we don't have a dev fee. We don't, everybody's volunteers. We don't even get paid for our work. We don't have tons and tons of money to throw around to get stuff onto these exchanges and things of that nature. But the good news is if you can list Bitcoin, you can list Vertcoin. It's pretty easy. It's the exact same basically code base. So it's not too hard. And if you have any problems, you can always reach out to the development team and we'll help you the best that we can. But that's the Upbit news. If you would like Upbit to keep us, I know we have emailed them saying, hey, please, keep it on the server and anything we can do to help you. We're just not going to pay like a ransom to keep it on there. But if you really want it on there, please reach out to them, to that exchange directly and ask them to please keep Vertcoin on that exchange. Other than that, I mean, if not, I would recommend that you get your coins off of the exchange and onto a core wallet. And then there's other exchanges that you can use in order to trade Vertcoin. Let's see here. Wanted to just touch real quick. So we had a new background go out by Harrison. Always love it whenever any sort of Vertcoin art gets created. So if you guys want to add that on to your background of your computer. Also linked to the last episode that we did back in April. It was a bit of a time ago in a completely different house than I am now, but everything is going good there. Let's see. The manager on Discord actually got us listed onto the, I think it's the Free Exchange or Fiery Exchange. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But that's listed in here. And, he did that on his own volition. Didn't have to ask us for our permission or anything of that nature. That's kind of the good thing about being, completely open source and everything. If you have the initiative that you want to get us listed on an exchange, by all means. And if you need help, I mean, it's a little bit different if they say we need an email from an @vertcoin.org email, then, obviously we'll be able to send an email on your behalf, but never feel scared to reach out to people and see if they'll list your favorite project. We added some mail mod bots to the Discord just to help kind of make it so that if you're having a problem in Discord, you can reach out to a mod. So we've had an increase in spammers as of late on our server. So if you see a spammer or somebody messages you from the Vertcoin Discord, just get their ID, send it over to us, let us know what they're doing, and then we can ban them if so is warranted. We don't have time for spammers and things of that nature. So we got some other things that kind of happened here. Swap Zone wanted to thank the Vertcoin community for support. And then we're looking to ramp up some marketing efforts around when the Verthash fork takes place. So by that, I mean like running ads, doing more of these talks and things of that nature, just letting people know that the fork is coming. So we have to select the fork block in the actual blockchain. We have not selected that block yet, so we're just making sure that our testing on the testnet, everything comes back fine, because once you do that fork, there's really no going back. So we just want to make sure everything is up and running. There's no problem. So the more people that we get on the testnet and testing every bit of software that we're putting out in order to support the Verthash ecosystem, the more prepared we are to do that fork. But I think our target is probably towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, which actually would coincide with, I think it was the February 2nd of 2019. This was the last fork that we did. That was Layer 2 Rev 3. So I'm hoping this time I can actually be online and stream out whenever we actually have the fork happening. I think it was a little late last time, but this isn't our first rodeo when it comes to forking the blockchain. We are more than happy to do it in order to make sure that we remain a GPU dominant project, and we continue to keep ASICs off of the blockchain the best that we can. And the best way to do that is you completely change the algorithm. So that should buy us at least a few years before I'm sure somebody will develop something and spend some time in R&D and things of that nature, and then we'll fork again. And but yeah, that's it. Let me double check to see if anything came in. Let's see if we got any questions here. So are we expecting future support for the miner, such as the new support or such as support for the new GPUs? Now, Cryptographics has been, I think he was updating the last miner, so the current GPU miner that we have for Layer 2 Rev 3, he'd been making tweaks and adjustments even after we had paid him. So when we pay him for his work on the miner, we're literally just paying to make the code open source. Now, there is no guarantee. We're not contracting him for the next 2 years to support the product with the latest updates. But in general, he's done a really good job of when new generations of graphics cards comes out, he'll go in and make some tweaks just to make sure that everything's going to work fine on those as well. Most of the time, the new graphics cards are going to be, backwards compatible with at least the last generation or maybe 2 generations. And we get new graphics card generations about every 2 years now. So if we have a miner that lasts 4 years, I think we'll be pretty good there. But there's no contractual obligation with Cryptographics to update the miner. Once we pay him, it's just to make his code open source. Let's see. Sending love from Portugal. Hey, nice to see you. Asked, what about a fork of Light Wallet? I know we tried, I think he's talking about a mobile style wallet. We tried making a mobile wallet, what was that, about 2 years ago? And we ran into, for lack of a better term, the absolute, blocking from the Apple iStore or is it the App Store? What's the App Store called on Apple? I'm an Android user.
Sure. No, yeah, you're right. So,
yeah.
The problem there was Apple was only accepting cryptocurrency wallets from approved cryptocurrencies, which Vertcoin wasn't one of. And there's no process to become a approved cryptocurrency. So they just declined our app submission. We talked to them, emailed back and forth, even escalated it to their, I don't know, intervention team, or there's a team that you can complain to. The App Store guys decline, and those guys also declined it. So we built a fork of Loaf Wallet or Bread Wallet or whatever it's called. It's still on GitHub. You can probably build it if you're an Apple developer and run it on your own. But we cannot put it in the App Store.
Yep. And so we went down that road. I mean, we spent a good amount of money too, just because you have to pay to actually get them to review this stuff. We had a team of designers. I think it was like 3 people who was designing out the different wireframes. We really were trying to do that, and it ended up just. That's kind of the problem when you have basically 2 platforms. You got Android and Apple, who they own the mobile application distribution networks through their stores. And if they shut you down, the only option you have is really to throw it up on a website as a download. And even then, the phones are going to freak out when you try to download and install an app that's not from the approved master store. So unfortunately, it's just not as easy. I use Edge Wallet. You have Konami as well, and that was another thing, is that there are other mobile wallets that are out there that support Vertcoin, and we looked at, okay, should we be taking these resources and putting it towards a mobile wallet when there's other alternatives out there that seem to be doing a really good job. So the code's still out there on GitHub. If anybody's interested in taking up that cause, I will say that it is like rolling a boulder uphill. So make sure you don't get caught behind that when Apple comes back and tells you to go screw yourself. But it is what it is. But all right, cool. Well, that's I think all the questions that we had in there. I want to thank everybody for joining us on this episode of Vertcoin Talk. I want to thank Jörg Jap for joining us from the Netherlands. It is very late there, so let's go ahead and get off of here so he can go on to bed. I got to go grab some dinner. But we'll be in the Discord later if you guys want to come in, chat, and hang out. And we will talk to you soon. Thanks again.